Hey, I think they're still working on the stuff, but they said go ahead and get started, so we're gonna do it and hope that it works.
A Town Square media station. WTUG HD2 Northport. And W26.
Good morning. Welcome to the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial. We're live, local, and ready to get things going. You can call us on the Alabama One hotline at 205 342 9904. That's the Alabama One hotline, 205 342 9904. You can also join us on the live stream at Martin Houston 35 on the live stream. So go ahead and make plans to join us there. We got a great show lined up for you. Want to encourage you to get into the conversation, like, follow, share, and support the live stream as well as interact with us. Post your thoughts, your comments, your reactions to the conversation today. We got a free for all Friday, Flashback Friday edition of the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. So jump on in with us. Thanks for all that you do each and every day to make it what it is, and we'll keep it going right here. I'm Martin Houston. That's Xavier Houston. That's Noah Haynes behind the glass, pressing all the right buttons. Big time news for the Alabama football team. I mean, football team, baseball team. Today, we'll talk about their big victory and what they were. They are doing what they can to keep their season alive and hope. Big rebound on yesterday. Also, good news for the softball team as they prepare to make a run toward the World Series and got big news with their ace, Montana Fouts, coming back. Also, we'll continue our create the avatar conversation. If you want to circle back and talk about what's happening on the avatar front, you want to circle back on the offensive line, then you're welcome to do that as well. But we're going to begin the new conversation and create the avatar, and we're going to start looking at tight ends. Alabama has a potentially have a really special group. I think a deep room, something Alabama's not had in a while in that position. And so we'll talk about those guys and kind of what's the avatar that you're looking for. Cameron Latou being able to make a little noise this year in the draft. I think a surprise pick, in my opinion, probably the surprise of all overall of how high he went. But kudos to him. making the move from linebacker to tight end, paying off big time for him. Want to remind you that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, X. How you doing, sir?
Morning, doing well. How are you?
Can't complain. Found out if you do, nobody really uh, cares if you do. So let's go ahead and make it a positive on this free for all Friday. Before we kick into the new conversation, of course, big news for Alabama baseball and good news for Alabama softball. Anything from earlier this week, a flashback that maybe you want to circle back to?
Uh, Not that I can think of right now.
All right. Well, I'm going to circle back on and tie it into baseball, and that is, has Coach Jackson done enough that they need to go ahead and just take the interim label off? Because when you look at this baseball team, they're playing well. I know that they had like a 3% chance of losing to Florida after they went up 6-3 and they lost. But I was talking to a big baseball fan yesterday, and I did not watch the game against Florida, but he talked about just how close Alabama came to putting that thing away in the eighth inning. Um, and it's one of those calls that you could call or let go. They called runner interference on a bunt, sacrifice bunt, that Alabama was moving runners around the bases, and you know, like I said, he was inside the baseline, but according to this fan, but it was just still great coaching and a great play, great call, almost perfect execution of it. And then he talked about how yesterday against Auburn, they just small balled them to death. They would just get a runner on, they'd move in a second, then they take that next step. So uh, before we talk about the specifics of how big a win that was for Alabama yesterday in the baseball, what are your thoughts now? Should they go ahead and, instead of him just being a candidate, are you ready to make him the head coach?
I'm definitely liking more and more him being the head coach.
Yeah, he is. He. I mean, it's pretty amazing to just watch this team play. I mean, they took down yesterday. They were able to take down the Auburn Tigers, keep their hopes alive with the 7-4 win over in-state rivals Auburn Tigers in a 7-4 matchup. Alabama's Alabama now it starts to look more impressive, regardless of who they play, sitting at 40-18. Um, X, got the scoring starting in the first inning, got a couple runs in the third and fourth, and then capped it off in the sixth inning, and then had some nice pitching um, down the stretch, and 14 hits. Uh, just wow, I don't even know what all to say about interim head coach, other than maybe they really need to do it. He said, and what he had to say was, we said, let's make sure we don't bring yesterday's loss to the yard with us today. And you could tell right away that our guys didn't. This was a great effort all around. And Garrett McMillan gave us a quality start. And then our main guys, our 2, 3, 4 hitters, had 6 RBIs. When your dudes are dudes, you usually good things are gonna happen. So just once again, kudos to Jackson. And I was trying to see if I could find, I didn't look it up this morning, who they would be taking on today, but just so proud of those guys and what they've been doing. But you couldn't ask for a better opportunity opportunity after a tough loss than take on the Iron Bowl. Any other thoughts on Coach Jackson and the baseball team and pretty much secured an opportunity to be host next week?
Definitely agree. I think, yeah, the win yesterday was the icing on the cake on being a host team next week. And as you said, Coach Jackson, the way he's gotten these guys to continue to perform, not let them get down after what could be a very emotionally draining game against Florida, and coming back winning once again the Iron Bowl of baseball yesterday. Hey, and Gary McMillan, a hometown kid from right here in Tuscaloosa, getting the win. It's a great overall performance by the Crimson Tide yesterday.
Yeah, now you start going back and start looking and going, ooh, how many close games did Alabama lose throughout the year? Man, I mean, like I said, it just makes you question, um, makes you question stuff more and more and more. There was the 8-7 loss at Florida, the 4-3 loss at Kentucky. Uh, there's the 5-4 loss at Arkansas. You start looking through the schedule, going, uh oh, 4-3 loss at UAB. It's just. You'll watch it more and more, and hopefully we'll see them do great into the run next year. Starting next weekend. Hey, who knows? They may finish out this SEC tournament in a shocker. So we'll keep our eyes on what they do there. We will not be here on Monday. Want everyone to have to honor and remember on Memorial Day. As we go to break here, thank all of those who have served and those who have lost and sacrificed for us to be able to have the great freedom, and we want to remember them. So we will not be here on Monday. As we go to break here, Curtis Moore II said, Greg Burns has a really tough decision on the hiring of head baseball coach. It would be hard to keep Coach Jackson from getting it at this point. And Blind Squirrel says, congrats on beating the barn. Always love to see those dastardly War Eagles lose. And Curtis came back and said, these kids are really rallying, bought in on Coach Jackson. So we'll see where it goes from here as we continue to talk about the capstone. Alabama softball has a big game. We'll talk about what they need to do to get the victory. And they got some good news on yesterday. And hopefully they'll be able to extend their season as well. Coming back on the other side, we'll keep the conversation going right here on Tide 100.9.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks and traffic pretty quiet on this Friday morning. And with school out, we should see less traffic this morning. Now, if you see conditions, give me a call, 205-886-8886. Others are raising their rates. Townsend Nissan is lowering theirs on selected models. 0% up to 60 months at Townsend Nissan. I'm Captain Ray.
The following is a message from the future, sent by Jamie from Progressive.
Back in 2023, you could get help from Progressive online, through our mobile app, or over the phone. But here, in the future, we can communicate with you through telepathy. Now, I don't think anyone in 2023 has mastered telepathy yet, but if you have, then you can totally read my thoughts right now. And yes, I did leave the oven on. Wow, you're good at this.
That was a message from the future. Get the help you need today with Progressive.
Do you smell smoke? I really should go.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today with only a small chance of a shower this afternoon or this evening. The high today 83, tonight's low 55. Tomorrow and Sunday, partly sunny both days, only isolated showers. Highs between 77 and 80. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 59 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome into the Martin Houston Show. Martin and Xavier, powered by MaX Sports. We want to thank Alabama One for their great support. Right now, we have a couple great promotions going on. Outdoor fun with Alabama One and a chance to win a big green egg. You can get great loans, flexible terms, no payments for 60 days for all of those outdoor vehicles, including boats, motorcycles, RVs, UTVs, golf carts, or you may have a hobby farm or a full-fledged farm and need some commercial farm equipment or ag equipment. You can get those loans as well and win a big green egg. Chance for you to win that weekly. Flexible terms there to fit your budget. No payment for 60. Well, all you need to do is go to alabama1.org, alabama1.org, and click apply now, and it'll take you through the easy to sign up process. But if you prefer to do business in person, and there's a branch located near you, just stop by, and one of our branch managers and team members will be glad to assist you. Also, want to encourage you, hey, if you're looking for a great place to put your deposits and watch them grow, Alabama has a great CD rate right now, earn up to 4.2. Out by one of the branch locations and open that CD today. Alabama1.org, one together. What's your one? All right, X, we're back. As we were going to break there, setting up that Alabama softball has a big game coming up. But man, the timing and the news of getting back your ace has to make this team feel really good about where they're headed. Coming off, big weekend last weekend without their ace, but set to take on number 12 Northwestern on ESPN today at 7 p.m. Tonight. So everybody get ready to watch that. But how big of news is it that they getting Montana back going into this super regional?
Yeah, it can't get any bigger than this. A little bit of time for her just to rest and rest that arm while healing that knee, I think is going to be huge for Alabama through the tournament. But it also, like we've mentioned, it also gave the other players some confidence in what they're able to do in case she isn't able to go or she gets worn down. So it's a great thing for her to be back, but it's also the fact that Bama knows that they can win without her. So not all of the weight is on her shoulders right now.
Yeah, and it'll give. And if I'm not mistaken, in softball, the pitcher can come out and come back in. So if certain things are done, I don't know if they've ever done that with Montana or not, or that rule may have changed, but um, it does give you some flexibility because she hasn't pitched since that injury, and you just don't know what you're going to get. But hopefully, she's completely healed. They bought her an extra week, some extra time without having to rush her back last week. So kudos to Team 27 as they start their run to try to make it into um, the College World Series, Women's College World Series. The biggest thing for Alabama, I don't think is going to be pitching anyway. I think it's going to be the bats. Um, if they can generate some runs for Montana, I think they'll be fine. But if Montana goes out and does what she does, and the run support isn't there, it'll be a disappointing weekend for Alabama softball. So, but that starts tonight. We'll get a lot of answers around 7 p.m. tonight. X, as we were talking about starting some avatar conversation, CJ Watson posted a comment, and it's an interesting conversation. We can tie it in a little bit with Montana. He said, heard an interesting talking point yesterday, and it was this year a GOAT year for some Alabama sports, the greatest of all times, in regards to some of the greatest players to play their positions at Alabama? Example, Bryce Young, Brandon Miller, Montana Fouts. Are they Bama GOATs all playing in the same academic year? Certainly was a special year watching these special players. I'll let you get your initial thoughts on that, and then we can circle back on each one, I guess, and break it down if you want.
Yeah,
For anybody out there listening,
argue.
do what?
No, I was saying you can definitely make that argument. The only thing is that means you had a lot of goats so far come up short in the expectations that of what you thought their teams could do. You know, Bryce Young leaving without a national championship as a starter. Brandon Miller falling short of getting to the Final Four with this team that we thought was built for it. Montana still has a chance, but she's knocking on the door of leaving without a national championship. So a lot of goats, but a lot of underwhelming performances from the team.
Yeah, starting to look at Bryce Young, taking one player at a time. You know, you look at Bryce coming in. Um, you got to look at um, what was realistic expectations for Bryce. What was what was when Bryce stepped on campus, based on the hype, based on the thing, you would have expected at least one, possibly in his tenure, um, two national titles while he was here. He was able to get the one, even though he wasn't the starter. So that's part of his tenure. You then have to look at and say, okay, we know we won't have him for 3 more years, but in the next 2 years, can Bryce get us there? And I guess not only did he not get us there, but would that make this year, if he's considered the GOAT, would that make him this past year, one of the most disappointing, if not the most disappointing, Alabama teams under Saban?
It definitely would. Um, it definitely would when you stop and think about what could have been or what should have been. He got to the national championship game as a starter, losing it. He's the first Heisman Trophy winner at the position. You look at the statistics. He's top three, top five in almost every single one of them. It just kind of, just kind of hard to, in my opinion, he might be the most talented guy to ever play the position, but I think when you're looking at the GOAT in football, you have to have a national championship
Hmm.
to really make a claim to that position as a quarterback. It's especially so. That's why
Okay, let me ask you this then.
I feel
Okay, what guy would have done more with this team than Bryce, the last two teams than Bryce did?
I don't know if there is a guy that would have done more
So why do
with.
people consider? And this is not just you. Why do people say goats have to win championships when it's a team sport?
Because I believe that is part of the conversation.
But I know, but
Like
that's why I'm saying why do people make that the standard for GOAT, the greatest of all time in a team sport? And then in golf, I can get that. Tennis, I can get that. That if you don't win a championship in those sports, you can't even begin to have that conversation. But why is it that people pick certain things? Clearly, the GOAT of Alabama football then is AJ McCarron. No one should be in the conversation other than AJ McCarron. The guy won 2 and was 1 second from playing for 3.
Mm-hmm.
So why isn't he just automatically the GOAT? That's I guess what I'm saying is I watch people do that and I hear them say, well, they don't have championships. But then they'll give a guy like Michael Jordan the GOAT because he has 6 when there's numerous guys that have 6 or more.
That's why I don't think it's the only thing. Some people like basketball is really flawed because it's almost like that's the only thing that matters. In my opinion, it's a part of the equation.
So
And
if you were starting a team, name one quarterback that you would take over Bryce Young.
Potentially Tua.
Based on what you know, you would take Tua, who can't stay healthy. You think Tua could have did what Bryce did with this team?
A healthy Tua, which is a big
hey, that's the there's a track record with Tua in health. So only thing neither one of them had, but so the 2 guys you just named are the 2 guys that don't have a championship. You said maybe Tua.
I give credit, even though Jalen was the starter, you have to give credit to Tua for winning the 2017 national championship.
Not as a national championship quarterback.
Why not?
Because he did not win. He didn't take his team there. He played a half.
Without that half, Georgia's got 3 in the last.
Do we know that for a fact? Do we know that for a fact?
No.
No, you don't know that. I mean, everybody act like we were down by like 100 points when he came in. No one gives credit to Najee Harris and what was the big offensive lineman that came in that all of a sudden shut down Georgia's
Alex Leatherwood.
Alex Leatherwood. No one talks about those guys. No one talks about what the defense did in the second half of that game. That was a complete, yes, Tua was the catalyst, I believe, without a doubt. And I hope no one hears me hating on Tua because that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you can't make him a national championship winning quarterback as a guy in the same category with the other guys. You can't put Tua in that category. When it was his team and he got to that moment, he has the single worst loss in the Nick Saban era in a championship game. Embarrassed, annihilated. When he had the chance to take his team from the first quarter, the first play, all the way to the end, what did he do? When the team had a month to prepare for him, what did he do? He wasn't injured. He wasn't hurt. What did he do?
Got embarrassed.
I mean, and don't get me wrong. You're probably Tua would probably be the second guy I would take, but I wouldn't take anybody over Bryce Young. So, I mean, if I'm picking a quarterback right now, of the guys I've seen play, maybe from the guys I've watched and the guys I played with and the guys since I played, I'm taking Bryce Young. So that's why even though he didn't win a championship, I would still say he's the greatest to play that position.
So if you look at the quarterback
hold that conversation. We have to get the break. Hold that conversation, X. Hold that thought, and you'll come back with that. Pat, which will get you on the other side as well. Hey, we want to get to these other goats too. And hey, there may be some other goats that was on this. We mentioned those 3, but there may be 1 or 2 other people that deserve to be in that conversation potentially as well. we'll talk about it. Keep it going right here on the Martin Houston Show. We appreciate you being a part of the conversation.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks and traffic pretty quiet on this Friday morning. And with school out, we should see less traffic this morning. Now, if you see conditions, give me a call, 205-886-8886. Others are raising their rates. Townsend Nissan is lowering theirs on selected models. 0% up to 60 months at Townsend Nissan. I'm Captain Ray.
Easter Seals West Alabama relies on donations and volunteers to offer services that help children and adults with disabilities live more independent lives. We believe all abilities have limitless possibilities. We need you to continue this mission. Monetary donations and volunteers are welcome throughout the year. Like and follow Easter Seals West Alabama on Facebook to sign up and learn about ways to support us.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin Xavier. It's live, local, and ready to get things going. Had some great conversation going on about GOATs, talking about Bryce Young. It's a free-for-all Friday, and CJ dropped a bomb topic in on us about, is this your year of the GOATs for Alabama sports? He mentioned Bryce Young, Brandon Miller, Montana Fouts. Hey, should Will Anderson be in the conversation as a GOAT, especially if it comes to maybe championships as part of the criteria, or is that just if you're a quarterback? X, I'll toss it back to you. You were about to say something when we headed to break.
Well, no, so I was looking. I was thinking when you're talking about the GOATs, like when you look at the quarterback position from the NFL level, does Dan Marino not get bashed for not winning one or get knocked down a peg or two? Even though at the time in the era that he played in, how amazing he was and what he potentially could have done in an era like today.
Yeah, he gets knocked down because people only give give credence to championships. That's my point. I'm not saying I'm not saying that Tom Brady is not the GOAT, because Tom Brady did it for a long, long time. I'm saying that people don't give Dan Marino credit, but it's a team sport. He don't get enough credit. I think Dan Marino was one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. Elite beyond what you could imagine. But he didn't get love because of the thing. I'm not disagreeing that that's what people use, but when you start asking questions, all of a sudden, when they're championship, but then when you ask take, if you were taking a guy and you were around him and you don't know what's going to happen around him, which guy would you build around? The reality of it is, are there other guys who could have gone to New England and did what Tom Brady did if they had the same breaks that Tom Brady had? Probably, possibly.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I will also give Tom Brady and I'll give LeBron James credit. The dudes invested in their bodies to make the longevity that they have. It's not coincidence. You start looking at all these other guys at their age, 10 years sooner than them, their bodies started breaking down when their bodies did. So let's get to Pat, and then we'll circle back on that conversation. Pat, you're in with Martin and Xavier on the Alabama One Hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Got you. Martin, You talking about players and quarterbacks and things. Could not Blake Sims have done something similar with the same weapons that Bryce had and that Tua had? You talk about Blake a lot. You give Blake a little, and hey, and a healthy Andrew Zhao could have done the same thing too.
Yeah, I mean, all of these guys that played in the Saban era, especially as it got rolling, had more weapons than the guys before them, right? Uh, which should hurt the Tua legacy and the Bryce legacy then, because they had
I
greater
think
weapons.
Bryce actually had a step back. Like when you look at it, when you start with Greg, or when you start with JP, then you go to Greg, the weapons he had, then AJ, the weapons he had, Blake, Jake, Jalen, to Mac. I think Bryce, if there's one thing you have to give Bryce credit with, I think his weapons regress back down for maybe to a Coker level or an AJ level of talent.
I don't know that I would take the guys last year over AJ's guys.
No, and I probably wouldn't when you look at Coop and Norwood and some of the other guys that he had. The running back he had.
They have a lot of talent and potential. I think this year that group is better. I think if you give Bryce the same receiver core he had the year before, then Alabama probably gets over the hump last year. But Pat, I'm not sure that Blake would do as much. I don't think we win the Texas game without Bryce. You know, and what he was able to do on that last drive. I still think the most amazing play in Bryce's career was the corner blitz against Texas, where somehow he managed to see that guy duck under him, escape the sack, and get outside and make a play.
Oh yeah, well it was a Heisman moment. Hey, but one more thing, real quick. You're talking about Texas being the greatest of all time. You got to give prompts to Alabama soccer women spell football in a funny kind of way. But hey, to go undefeated, I mean, at home, it was pretty darn incredible. And I mean, I realize people don't get into that kind of football, but it's for the greatest of all time at the capstone they were.
Your phone was clipping. Who were you referencing?
So I was saying Alabama's football women that because to go undefeated at home is and it's this line that they gave me at your station. It's not my phone. But anyway, because I had one a couple of weeks ago the same way. Anyway, y'all have a blessed day. Thank y'all.
All right, thanks, Pat. The soccer team. I mean, football women. I was like, "What's the football women?" I don't know what that is, but talking about the soccer team. So I had to hear it again. I thought that's what he said, but anyway, we're talking about individual, and I don't know any of the individuals on that team. But C.J. Watson said, "I do wish it had garnered some championships, but from an individual player standpoint, we've certainly seen some GOAT level play from these players. Are there players we would take over these players, championship or not?" And that's kind of to me, that's when you get to the meat of it. Uh, despite the fact that AJ had two championships and literally had his team on the verge of playing for three, and had they not got upset there, I think Alabama would have went into the postseason as a clear favorite to win 3 in a row. but Auburn upset them and etc.
Probably would have.
Huh?
And probably would have.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And so that team was so devastating. I mean, so good, right? Um, and so you wouldn't take him over Bryce or Tua, and that's the two guys that didn't win a championship. And that's why I say that. And I know people say Tua will always be memorialized as a second and 26, and he deserves a lot of credit for that championship. But when it was his team um, taking it all away, he didn't win it. And if he had played more throughout the season, I would give him even more credit. But he had a great half, and the team had a great half, and we probably wouldn't have that championship, or may not have that championship without him. But we definitely wouldn't probably make that second and 26 without him. But there was also a couple other plays in there that we may would have changed things if he had done a little different. So anyway, moving on past that. Will Anderson deserves to be in the conversation, but he does he get a leg up on Derek Thomas X because he had a championship?
No.
Right? No.
No. Yeah. Derek you got to play with him. I've only got to watch really clips of him, and that was one of the most dominating forces I've ever seen on a football field.
I think he had 28 sacks in 11 games. Just let that sink in for a second. In a non-passing
era where they didn't throw the ball.
In a non-passing era when 20 passes to 25 was a big passing day. And some people say, well, the tackles weren't as good. Well, that's true. But if you gave Derek Thomas a whole game to pass rush, I don't think it mattered how good the tackles were. He was that good. He was elite. Potentially the best player that ever played at Alabama. That's how good I think Derek Thomas was. Period, regardless of the position. Quickly shift over to Brandon Miller. Is Brandon Miller a GOAT at Alabama?
Yes, I think he has to be. Now the thing with basketball is he's not going to hold a ton of records because he was a one and done. He holds the record for most points as a freshman. But just his impact on Alabama, I think he has to be in the conversation as one of the greatest guys to ever wear the Crimson Tide uniform on the basketball court. Point blank, period. If you want to do a Mount Rushmore with basketball because you have the different levels of guys who stay for 4 years, stay for one, whatever, that's fine. He deserves to be on that.
Yeah, and that's about the way you'd have to do it, because there's some old hands that played here that some of the old hands. We'll have to ask DC that question because he is an old school basketball dude. But Alabama has a couple of older guys that would make it, but he's definitely, and I would agree with you, in the conversation to be a part of that. And then quickly before we get to break, moving on to Montana Fouts. Is she the GOAT? Or will Trainer sit atop that mountaintop till someone else gets Alabama to the mountaintop?
Looking at this conversation, now that I really stop and think about it, with Alabama, especially when you look at football, basketball, and even now with softball, Mount Rushmore is a better decision than a GOAT, in my opinion. It just is what it is. Jackie Trainer was amazing. Montana Fouts has been amazing. The list goes on. Kendall Dawson was a really amazing softball player. The list, like I said, the list goes on. There's been a lot of talent come through Alabama among the multiple sports. And so, in my opinion, we should have more of a Mount Rushmore conversation with these guys than we should trying to pick one certain player to be the greatest, because they all hit different criteria. They all hit different, accomplishments along their career. So she's definitely on the Mount Rushmore. Bryce is on the Mount Rushmore. Will, when you look at position, Will is on the Mount Rushmore. I mean, the list goes on of guys and girls that have been here. I mean,
let me ask you this, X.
Gymnastics, Morgan Dennis, the list goes on of just amazing players that have graced the capstone.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Do you think softball today is significantly better than it was a decade to a decade and a half ago?
In the yes, especially in the SEC conference.
Absolutely.
Definitely improved.
Yeah.
Over the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, and that's the point. You take Montana Fouts and put her back when Alabama crossed that bridge. I think Montana Fouts is mowing people down like nobody's business. I mean, the bats, the style of play was different. Alabama, it was more slapstick and small ball, and Murph did it better than anybody, and he had the dominant pitcher. Now we don't generate the runs. Everybody is better in the SEC. There are teams right now that are probably middle of the pack in the SEC that would be contenders back then. So, I mean, that's what you have to look at. It's sort of like baseball. I think we were sitting number 12 in RPI X in the nation. You know where we were RPI in the SEC?
I think we were like 4 or 5.
No,
crazy.
We were 8, I think. We were 7 or 8. There were 6 teams in the top 10. I think number 7 was 11th, and we were 12th. so you see my point? I mean, we had the 12th toughest schedule in the nation, 12th RPI, but we were like 8th in our own conference. There was 8 teams in the top 12, if I'm not mistaken. So that just shows you how much the sports have changed and gotten better along the time. So, hey, coming back on the other side, we'll put the finishing touches on this edition of the Martin Houston Show. We'll tease up that conversation around the avatar. I want to thank CJ Watson for that great conversation. You may want to have a comment on it, 205-342-9904.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks and traffic pretty quiet on this Friday morning. And with school out, we should see less traffic this morning. Now, if you see conditions, give me a call, 205-886-8886. Others are raising their rates. Townsend Nissan is lowering theirs on selected models. 0% up to 60 months at Townsend Nissan. I'm Captain Ray.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Friday morning. During a telephone town hall, West Alabama Democratic Congresswoman Terry Sewell is blaming Republicans for manufacturing what she calls a default crisis on the debt ceiling by demanding budget cuts. She said it will hurt over 100,000 senior citizens here in West Alabama if they lose their Social Security payments. The U.S. will run out of money to pay its bills on June the 1st. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news. Don Hartley, Townsboro Media, Tuscaloosa.
My doctor told me my cholesterol is borderline, so I took control with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula. Garlic helps maintain healthy cholesterol safely and naturally. It's odor and taste-free, and Garlic is a world leader in garlic potency. I'm taking charge of my cholesterol with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula, cholesterol's natural enemy.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The term natural references only the garlic in the product. Use as directed.
It's the Tuscaloosa Community Calendar, powered by Pepsi.
Reading Allies needs you. Each year, they need volunteers to assist with struggling readers in our schools. It is easy to sign up and to volunteer, and you can make a difference in a child's life. Please go to readingallies.org. Reading Allies needs you. Each year, they need volunteers to assist with struggling readers in our schools. It is easy to sign up and to volunteer, and you can make a difference in a child's life. Please go to readingallies.org.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by MaX Sports. Interesting morning. Free for All Friday ended up with a little GOAT conversation after talking about Bama baseball taking down the Auburn Tigers in the Iron Bowl. 7 and possibly of actually having an opportunity for Coach Jackson to get named the permanent guy. So will he get that label? Will the interim be dropped? Maybe a win over Vandy today in the second game goes a long way in making that a reality. Tough job for Burns. We'll see how he handles it. But kudos to those guys. Bama softball takes on Northwestern tonight at 7 p.m. Hosting that at the Joe. They will, at Rhodes House. They will get things going there tonight. And kudos to Montana for fighting back. Maybe she'll be all the way back and able to get Alabama off to a 1-0 start. We'll be ready to talk about it. Come back on Tuesday of next week. We'll not be here on Monday as we all honor those who Memorial Day on Monday with family and friends, and remember and honor those who have paid the ultimate price and those who paid the ultimate sacrifice of their life and or the loss of their loved ones. So we're going to, when we come back on Tuesday, we'll be talking about the avatar for tight ends. Any individual, instead of getting into equalities right now, any individual out there just kind of jumps off the page as the guy that you would pick.
There's one name, if we're going to be honest, or two names. There's two names when you look at the tight end position in Alabama history of what they brought to the table, and that is Ozzie Newsome, number one, and O.J. Howard. When you look at those two guys, their talent levels, what they were able to do. And Ozzie was the all-time leading receiver when he left Alabama, and OJ was, in my opinion, severely underused throughout his career, but we did get to see big moments from him, especially the 2015 National Championship game against Clemson. So those two guys are the first two names that pop in my head from the tight end position.
Ozzie pops in my head, but I played with a guy that had over 50 receptions in 11 games at the tight end position.
Russell.
Yeah. So you have to start thinking through some Bama guys, but I would throw and he was not your prototypical tight end. He was a guy that could do a little bit of damage, not the size of Latu or anything like that, but he could get in there a little bit and block. And he would probably be even better today because I don't know that the outside rushers and stuff like that are any bigger than they were back in the day, as people are going more um, more to pass rushing specialists on the edge. So Lamont Russell would definitely be in that conversation. From a excuse me, from an overall standpoint, period, is there a guy around maybe the NFL level or any other school that you would pick?
Right now, at the college level, you have to look at Brock Bowers and what he does. He's a very good blocker, an amazing pass catcher, route runner. The way that Georgia has used him in his 2 years there is phenomenal. And then, of course,
Brock Bowers is Lamont Russell. That's what Lamont Russell looked like playing tight end 30-something years ago, X. If you went back and watched, Brock Bowers that's exactly what Lamont Russell looked like. Go ahead.
Pro level, I mean, you look at all the greats at that position throughout history. Ozzie Newsome's made it into the conversation there. But like you can just continue with Shannon Sharp, Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, Jason. Just really what you want. But currently still playing, it doesn't get any better than Travis Kelce.
Yeah, and I would tell you, old school, you have to throw in Winslow. You had to go back and watch that dude play. It's some of those old hands, boy. If they were playing now, Winslow and Fouts, that combination in the NFL, Dan Fouts. If you saw him, you'd be like, "This dude play quarterback? Really? Come on, ain't no way." But him and I think it was Coryell. I think the head coach name. Now, it was not known as a catcher, but if you wanted to run the sweep, you had to have Howard Cross. And his son ended up playing up at Notre Dame. He played with the Giants on several of their Super Bowl teams. The dude, and I forget, what was the name? Mark Bavaro, I think, maybe, that played tight end back in the day when they were at the Giants. But also, don't forget, what's the guy's name for the 49ers? Starts with Kittle.
George Kittle.
Yeah, you had to put him in the conversation. I want to tell you, Gothard, he was a go-to guy for Jalen. It's a lot of good tight ends out there. And the big question is, will Alabama take the weekend? And as Sports says, all of our fallen heroes as we will remember them on Monday, Memorial Day. Want to wish you nothing but the best out there, and family and friends, as you travel, visit, and honor our fallen heroes and the families who have been impacted by it. We'll catch you back on Tuesday. Remember this: trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding, always acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. Roll Tide out there, everybody. And hey, come check out Harvest Church this Sunday at 9 a.m. for Bible study, 10 a.m. worship service. For the Martin Houston Show, for Martin and Xavier, and for Noah Haynes, we say roll tide out there and catch you on Tuesday.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks and traffic pretty quiet on this Friday morning. And with school out, we should see less traffic this